I have the best chocolate chip cookie recipe that feels like you're cheating, but you're not. It's all made with healthy ingredients that you can indulge in without the guilt. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups of almond flour. I'm gonna double the recipe because I find one batch doesn't make a lot, so I like to double it. Okay, so if you're making just a single recipe, it's gonna call for 1.5 cups of almond flour. To that, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of arrowroot starch. If you don't have arrowroot starch available, you can also use cornstarch. That is going to work as well. And then we have a little bit of sea salt in here. So we're gonna add this to our almond flour and just give that a stir to make sure it's well combined. All right. Good. I love this recipe. I make it often, and then I freeze my cookies and then I put them in the freezer. And then whenever I'm feeling like I want a little bit of a sweet snack, then I dip into the freezer, and I like to even eat them frozen because they're really good right out of the freezer too. Okay, we're gonna set this aside just for a second. Okay, and another separate bowl. Oh shoot, I didn't add the 2 tablespoons of arrowroot starch. Whoops! That would not have gone well. I added my baking soda and my salt, but I did not add this. So this would have definitely affected the recipe. Okay, now we're gonna give this a stir again. Yeah, it's sometimes you forget steps as you're talking, so that's okay. I think we've all been there before. We've all made mistakes, right? It's all a learning curve. Okay, now that is ready to go. We have our arrowroot starch in there. Okay, now in a separate bowl. Part 2. Now we're ready for part 2. You're going to take, now again I'm doubling it, but if you're doing the regular recipe, you're going to take 1/3 cup of 100% pure maple syrup. You can also use stevia, powdered stevia. I like to use 100% pure maple syrup. Maple syrup, yes, has sugar in it, but it also has minerals in it as well. And it's things that your body needs and absorbs, and it's really, really good for you. Okay, now to that, you're going to add 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. Okay. And also, we're going to add a little bit of vanilla. So this recipe calls for 2 teaspoons, but I'm gonna double it because I have to remember to put double what I'm doing right now. This is how I measure my vanilla. I've been doing this for so long that I just kind of eyeball it. But if you feel more comfortable, then just measure it out. It's probably best. So I'm gonna take my whisk, give that a stir, make sure it's well combined. Okay. One thing that I like to do, and actually I forgot to add it in, did you know that cinnamon also has an amazing health benefits as well? Cinnamon can actually help lower your blood sugar. So you can add it to any kind of recipe. You can add it to your oatmeal, your smoothies. I like to put a bit of a generous portion in there. I like it to really shine through. And it tastes good. It tastes amazing in recipes. So yeah, add cinnamon whenever. You can even add it to your coffee in the morning, and that's gonna help just kind of keep your blood sugar low throughout the day. Lots of wonderful uses and lots of little tricks. Okay, so we're gonna incorporate that. Now we're gonna add our dry ingredients into our coconut oil and maple syrup mixture. This is such a simple recipe, you guys. So simple, but so good for you. Okay, we're gonna combine that really well. Now you are gonna notice that it's not gonna look like typical cookie dough. It's going to be maybe a little more on the gooey side, and that's okay. It's just how it looks, okay? Give that a really good stir. We want everything really well combined. Now, for the chocolate part, if you can find Stevia chocolate chips, those are awesome. They're chocolate chips that have, they're made with 100% dark chocolate, and they're just sweetened with Stevia. And if you can't find those, then I would resort to Lindt 90% dark chocolate. You could do like the 80-85%. The higher percentage of the chocolate, there's going to be 0 sugar added to it. So I like to do the 90. You can do the 95. There's even 100% dark chocolate. It's whatever you prefer. So just go by what you like, okay? All right, now I'm just going to take this out. I'm going to switch to my spatula. Okay, so I was out of my Stevia chocolate chips, so I have the 90% dark chocolate by Lindt. So I have it right here, and just chop it up until it's nice and chunky. And then you're just gonna fold that in. Super duper easy. Okay. One thing that I like to keep in mind too is that when you're melting your coconut oil and it comes out of the microwave, just let it cool for a couple of minutes, because if you add it too soon, it's going to melt all of your chocolate chips in there. And it's okay if that happens too. If you want more of like a marbling effect in your cookie, that's fine. But if you want your chocolate chips to be nice and chunky, then I would just wait and let your coconut oil cool. Okay, then you're gonna take a cookie sheet. Now you can line it with parchment paper, or you can just grease it. I just sprayed a little bit of olive oil on it. And you're gonna drop these just by a tablespoon, and you want to leave about maybe an inch apart. Okay, now they're not going to spread as traditional cookies when you put them in the oven. They are going to expand somewhat, but not like you would see in a regular cookie dough recipe. So I like to put about 3 across. You could do this with a tablespoon. You could actually do this with a small cookie scoop, whatever you want. Both get the job done just as effectively. Yeah, and this is pretty much all there is to it. So when you are done dropping your cookies, you're going to bake them in a 350-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. So I would set the timer for 10 minutes, gauge it. If it's kind of a nice golden brown, and if the cookie is a little bit cracked on top, that's your indication that your cookie is done. But if it's looking still pale in color, and if it's not nice golden brown, then you know it needs to go back in the oven just for a little bit. So just keep an eye on it. Oh, this one's a little deformed, but that's okay. All right, I'm gonna pop these in the oven very soon, and then we'll see the end product. Our cookies are now out of the oven and they are cooled. So let them cool for about maybe 10 to 15 minutes before you take them off of your cookie tray. And this is what they should look like. They are nice and golden brown. They are delicious. And I like to put mine in a freezer bag and then just take them out as I'm feeling like I want a little bit of an indulgence. So here is your healthy and gluten-free chocolate chip cookies.